All right, let's talk about something huge, something you've probably felt. Why does it seem like money just makes more money all by itself while working your tail off doesn't quite get you there? We're going to get into it. I mean, you know the feeling, right? You put in the long hours, you finally get that raise, but it still feels like you're on a treadmill, like the goalposts are just always moving. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not just in your head. It is a very real core dynamic of our economy. And today we're going to break down exactly why that is. Okay, so to really get what's going on, you got to meet the two main players in this whole drama. First up, you've got labor income. Pretty simple, right? That's your paycheck, the money you get for your time, your skills, your hard work. And then you have capital income. This is the money your money makes. It comes from owning stuff, stocks, real estate, whatever. Think profits, dividends, rent. Now, on the surface, they just look like two ways to get paid. But trust me, they are playing by completely different rule books. So, Act 1. It turns out, depending on who you are, you're living in one of two totally different economic universes. So check this out. For most people, the middle 60% of us, almost 2/3 of our money comes from our job, our labor. Makes sense. But then you look at the tippy top, the top 0.1%, and the script is completely flipped. For them, over half of their income comes from capital, from their assets. They're not just living in a different world, they are playing a fundamentally different game. Okay, Act 2, let's dig into the rules of that game. And the first rule, well, it's not even man-made, it's just math. And the thing is, capital has this built-in, almost unfair mathematical advantage from the get-go. Einstein supposedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. We're talking about compound interest. This is the magic engine that drives capital. It's how money learns to make more money all on its own. Okay, this is the key. You have to get this. Your salary, it grows in a straight line. It's linear. It's additive. You get a paycheck, you add it to your bank account, then you get another. But capital? Oh no. Capital grows exponentially. It's multiplicative. It's a snowball rolling downhill. The money it earns starts earning its own money. That single difference, well, it changes everything. This is a perfect way to see it in action. So meet Alma and Dave. Alma, she invests 10 grand one time when she's 31, just once. Dave, he works hard, saves up, and invests double that, 20 grand. But he starts 10 years later. So who has more money by age 50? It's Alma. She has more, even though she put in half as much. How is that possible? Simple. Her money had 10 extra years for that compounding snowball to get bigger and bigger. Time is capital's ultimate secret weapon. But this isn't just a math lesson. There's more going on. The second piece of this puzzle is a massive economic shift that happened not too long ago. I'm talking about the moment the fundamental link between how hard you work and what you get paid was severed. Let's go back in time for a second. For decades, the system actually made a lot of sense. From the late 40s all the way to the late 70s, as the country got more productive, as workers were creating more value, their paychecks grew right along with it. Look at the numbers. Productivity shot up 108% and pay went up 93%. That's a pretty fair deal, right? You work smarter, you create more, you get a bigger piece of the pie. And then it all changed. Starting around 1979, that link just snapped. Productivity kept on soaring, up another 70%. We kept getting better and more efficient. But worker pay, it basically flatlined, up just 12%. This chart right here, this is the smoking gun. This is what economists call the Great Decoupling. So the obvious question is, where did all that money go? All that extra value workers were creating, it had to go somewhere, right? Well, the data is crystal clear. It was redirected. It flowed up to top executives for sure, but crucially, it was recategorized as profits. It stopped being wages for labor and started being returns for capital. Which brings us to the third force that's, well, let's just say tilting the playing field. And that's politics. Because this whole divergence we're seeing, it gets supercharged by deliberate choices made in our tax code. It's actually crazy simple when you break it down. The government taxes those two kinds of income we talked about, labor and capital, very differently. The money you earn from your job, that's taxed as ordinary income, and it faces the highest rates. But the money you earn from your investments, from capital, that gets a special lower tax rate. Think about that. The system literally puts its thumb on the scale. It has a built-in preference for owning over working. So who does this tax preference help? Well, who owns most of the capital? The wealthiest people. So they get almost all of the benefit. Get this, the top 10% of earners, they get 75% of all the capital gains. It's a tax break that, by design, overwhelmingly benefits a very small group of people. And this is where you get a really powerful feedback loop. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Concentrated wealth leads to concentrated political influence. That influence is then used to protect and even expand policies, like these special tax rates that favor capital, which, of course, leads to even more concentrated wealth. It's a loop that just locks in the advantage, making it stronger and stronger over time. All right, so Act 3, the final score. What happens when you take all three of these forces, the pure math of compounding, the economic rate decoupling, and the politics of the tax code, and you let them run for half a century? What does the result look like? Well, here it is, the climax of the whole story. Let's just say you had $100 back in 1970. If that $100 just grew at the same rate as the average US wage, today you'd have a little over $1,000. Okay, not bad. But what if you took that same $100 bill and put it into the S&P 500, basically a basket of the biggest US companies? Today, you wouldn't have $1,000. You'd have over $22,000. This isn't even a competition, it is an absolute blowout. Just let that number sink in for a second. 20 times more money put into capital grew over 20 times faster than money earned from an average job. It doesn't just beat labor, it's playing a different sport in a different solar system. You know, there's actually a fancy academic theory for all this, from the economist Thomas Piketty. It boils down to a super simple but powerful formula. R is greater than G. That's it. It just means that R, the rate of return on capital, is consistently greater than G, the rate of economic growth. And when wealth grows faster than the overall economy that everyone else is living in, well, rising inequality isn't an accident. It's the inevitable result. So let's just put it all together. What have we seen? First, you have the unstoppable math of compounding giving capital a head start. Second, you have the economic event where productivity and pay went their separate ways. And third, you have the political system stamping its approval by taxing capital less than labor. Those three things working together, that's the engine creating the massive gap we see today. Okay, but why does any of this actually matter? I mean, who cares? Well, we all should, because this isn't just numbers on a chart. This stuff shapes our society. It's not just about a few people getting super rich. It's about the rungs on the ladder of opportunity getting pulled further and further apart. It makes it harder for people to climb. When wealth gets this concentrated, social mobility goes down. It becomes fundamentally harder to do better than your parents did. And you start to see a system where what you inherit, the capital you start with, can end up being more important than how hard you work or how talented you were. So I'll just leave you with this question. When you have a system where the rewards for owning things so completely blow away the rewards for doing things, what does getting ahead even mean anymore? The rules of the game we've just looked at, they suggest the answer is a whole lot more complicated than just work hard.